This is Melanie Wilkinson with YorkNewsTimes.com. Well, this past week, the Executive Director of the York County Development Corporation, Cassie Seagren, visited with the county board. She wanted to talk to them about things that they've been doing over the past year. She also talked about some business visitations that her organization underwent this year. They met with some local businesses. They also surveyed them about what they feel about their business climate, their ability to hire, that type of thing.
Probably one of the biggest things that came out of all the visits that we did were the strengths and weaknesses as a place to do business in York County. These are a little alarming. Strengths, as you might guess, the number one strength was location, primarily due to transportation access. It's no secret that we have a pretty prestigious interchange just south of town here that helps us bring in a lot of tax revenue into the city and the county, but as well as a lot of other visitors every year as well. Other strengths as a place to do business were stable economy, primarily due to the agricultural industry that we have here, whether that's farming, whether that's a value-added ag operation, or a support business to the ag industry itself. Positive business climate, meaning that there's not a lot of local competitors, also came up in the top 5. Labor and workforce attributes, meaning that we have a great work ethic, and quality of life, such as a good place to do business, a great place to raise a family. They feel safe here. While that's all good and we can continually promote those, we do have some things that we do need to work on. Our top 5 weaknesses were labor and workforce attributes, meaning that every single employer that I talked to last year told me that they can't find employees. They have open positions, they need to expand, their business is booming, but they can't find people to come work for them. Or they do, and they lose them within a couple months because they don't necessarily like the work. They don't necessarily like the shift schedules, or they're just not trained. I had one employer tell me they had one position open, they got in 60 applicants, and they didn't hire any of them. So they went 0 for 60. The majority of them immediately got thrown out because they weren't qualified. The rest of them had very little skills or couldn't pass a drug test. That's an issue. It's something that is somewhat out of our control as a development corporation and as a community as a whole, but it's also something that we need to recognize in working with our educational partners. Second one was business services inadequate. This was primarily the telecommunications infrastructure. It's no secret that we've had some telecommunications issues throughout the county, primarily in certain sectors of the city of York. It's very hard to get an internet speed, sometimes even a connection, which when we're doing business in a digital age and we have businesses within our county that rely solely on internet sales, that's a big issue. Third was negative community leadership, perception that it's difficult to work with governments. This is hard. It's a hard one to swallow. I don't know if there's an answer for that. I don't know how you do that. Again, that's a perception from businesses. Whether it's right or wrong, that's not for me to say, but it is something that came up frequently. Fourth was quality of life, meaning that the cost of living was high. There wasn't a lot of housing or housing options. Again, this is something too that you kind of have to look at and know that there have been steps made in the past to continually to try to improve our housing stock. I know when my previous successor was here, or predecessor was here, there was a big heavy focus at YCDC on housing. A lot of housing grants were done. And then obviously with the housing market taking its turn that it did, you can kind of see how some of that would drop off a little bit. But when you're facing housing prices, or if I were to bring in corporate executives right now that were going to live here, I don't know where I'd put them. And that's an issue that countywide we really need to look at. And then finally, the biggest weakness or barrier as a place to do business was community attitudes, meaning that there's a hesitancy to try new things, a perception out there that change is bad, that change isn't wanted, and a perception that new businesses aren't wanted. Again, when you're trying to foster your own, yet recruit your new, and your own have this perception, it makes it a little bit difficult to try to get somebody to be able to put in front of a new business coming into town and to try to promote it.
Now, Seagren has resigned her position. She will be moving to a different position in Omaha starting next week. So this is just her way, she said, of telling the county what they have available, what their options are, and to keep going the incentive for economic development in York County. Again, this is Melanie Wilkinson with YorkNewsTimes.com.